Welcome back in to the Collins It Like It Is podcast. We've got a awesome pair of guests today, A-list guests. We've got Jay from Jay's Trident post game on YouTube. Jay, thanks for hopping on and having a conversation. We've also got Danny Vietti on with us. He's the host of the Wake and Rake podcast. Also does some socials for CBS Sports. So, guys, this is awesome. I can't believe I got both you guys on the same episode. This is a real treat. In the words of um, Uncle, he's in Christmas Vacation. Help me out here, Jay.
Uncle Eddie, Uncle
Uncle
Eddie.
Eddie. I was drawing a blank. This is a real nice surprise. This is just a real nice surprise. So I guess let me kick it off to Danny first. From your perspective, the Mariners just came off of a big time sweep of the Sacramento A's. Vibes were pretty darn low, as we were entering into that series as Mariner fans. There was even people being like, "Hey, this is a critical series for Dan to just even keep his job as we're heading into the series, come out of it with a sweep." But my question to you is, Danny, what was your perspective on I guess the Mariners in general, because when I look at some of these teams that came into the year that you had expectations for, my thoughts on those teams were never like, they're out of it. But that's as a Mariners fan, I was feeling that way of like, oh man, this is getting pretty dark. For you as a non-Mariners fan, just kind of looking at broader things, did you ever feel like the Mariners were in trouble?
I just feel like as a whole, not even this series necessarily, but I just think offensively they're limited because they have a lot of swing and miss in that lineup. From Randy, Julio swings and misses quite a bit when he gets in a funk. Josh Naylor has high swing and miss. JP Crawford has high swing and miss. Especially without Brendan Donovan in the lineup, they're very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And I think Donovan is like the complete X factor for this team because he's a contact guy, can move guys over. He does something different that a lot of the hitters in the Seattle lineup don't do. Now, your question was about this series in particular. That stadium is an absolute boombox. I went to the game on Tuesday and I had multiple people tell me if Seattle played in this stadium on a
Uh,
162, well, 81 home game basis,
yeah.
this lineup would look a whole lot different.
Right.
I mean, Cole Emerson had a really nice series. Excuse me. Emerson had a really nice series. Randy smoked the ball in left center. I went probably 430. Julio had a nice series. So I think at this juncture, you just hope to put together good stretches of baseball, and it matters even more when you are playing a divisional foe like the Athletics, who came into the series in first place. So I still think this team needs some table setters at the top of the lineup. I don't love JP in the leadoff position.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good strategy for success. But very excited to see what this lineup is capable of doing when this team gets healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was exciting for sure. It was the first time that we've seen this team click all year. It's been just a lot of, I wouldn't even say roller coaster. It's just been a lot of kind of treading water. That's kind of been the term that I've used all year, just kind of treading water. And this was the first time that you saw like, okay, this is what got you to the ALCS last year. Like just dominating starting pitching, uh, guys coming out of the bullpen that you just can't touch, and top to bottom lineup just clicking. You also had situational hitting, which you really haven't had all year. It was a really awesome series from a Mariners perspective. Jay, do you think that this is? You asked me when I was on your episode the last time. It was after a Braves series win. You said, "Is this going to take us off the ramp?" And my question for you is, do you think that this is where we start to see the Mariners really get some momentum going and start to kind of distance themselves? They got the lead in the division now, but do you think we're about to see what was expected, which is for the Mariners to kind of run away with this division?
I certainly hope so. Every time I feel like that happens, they just let down the next
Yeah.
series and lose two out of three. It's been the whole season so far. I think in this division, I'd like to say yes. Part of it is the AL West is so weak right now that I think that the Mariners will kind of start to pull away just by default a little bit. They haven't fully clicked yet. But to your point, Sean, and I think this is the first series all season where I went, wow, they truly just looked like a better team from start to finish than their opponent. And they've had some great series. They probably did against Houston as well a few times, but Houston's really struggled. But even
Yeah.
like the St. Louis sweep, they won 3-1 run games. Love it. We'll take it. But it was kind of like, hey, it was even games and they won the coin flips. This was the first time I was like, wow, the Mariners actually went into a stadium and I thought just from top to bottom looked like the more contending team.
Yeah.
I think it could be the catalyst. Like I said, I've thought that before this season, but I've kind of said on my channel, like, hey, I think once this team gets in first place, they stay in first place. But Danny made some great points about the lineup. I think Brendan Donovan is so important to this team because it's like the one kind of different player than
Hmm.
what they have that really kind of changes that swing and miss or home run. And when they're on, I mean, this lineup can go on weeks when it's just, you don't know how it makes an out. We saw that last year when they had that run in September.
Yeah.
You almost felt bad for some starting pitching.
Yep.
And they really haven't hit that groove yet this year. Now they're missing Cal Raleigh and Donovan right now. That's a huge factor. But I think, getting a couple guys like Victor Robles back can help a little bit with those things as well, because he's a little bit more of a contact guy. But yeah, to answer the question that you actually asked me, I think it can be. I definitely think it can be here. Now they come back home, good momentum, an Arizona team that's playing really well, but I think a team the Mariners can beat. So, I'm
Yep.
very hopeful that this is the catalyst for them.
Yeah. One thing I have been, I would say, critical of the Mariners is I've compared them to a computer that doesn't have a software update. They just stick to their plan, and at nauseum, you just see like, okay, we're rolling out Rough Snyder in the 5 hole again. Like, okay, but my point in bringing that up is the A's, they decided to go off script, and it didn't work at all for them. They decided we're going to kick Severino out for this series and bring up a rookie, and it kind of blew up in their face. And so there is a little bit of credit that needs to be given to the Mariners of at nauseum. They have stuck to their plan. And they are going to ride or die with with what they got, who they got in the lineup order that they've written out, basically out of spring training, and for better or worse, they're going to see it through. Whereas you see a team like the A's try and get cute, and it didn't work at all. Like the Mariners took that 4D chess move and shoved it right back in their face. It was beautiful. And I don't even I think I'd call this series a sweep. What I said on Twitter was, the janitors that have that little cart that they push forward and it spins, and that's how they clean the floor. I'd say that was more appropriate than a sweep. They kind of, I don't know, like polished the A's this series. I a lot to love. I want to pivot real quick to some of this piggyback drama that's been going on. Danny, I really want to get your thoughts on this because Mariner fans are ticked off about this whole piggyback situation. I would say the consensus, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong. I would say consensus among Mariner fans is put Castillo in the bullpen.
I'd concur.
He
Yeah.
hasn't earned the right to, with his 6 ERA, even though he's looked good, his most recent outings, he hasn't earned the right to kick any of the other guys out of the rotation, and he seems to be the odd man out. But instead of doing that, we're doing this piggyback thing, and now it's pissing both Castillo and Miller off. Danny, is this something that teams do? Like, because you have a broader view of the league as a whole. What are we doing? Is this like a thing? And what's your perspective on this whole piggyback nonsense that's going on with the Mariners?
I'll start with this. It's a very good problem to have. If you have too much talent in your rotation, it's a problem that most teams in Major League Baseball don't have. The fact that you do have six competent starters is a good problem. Now, the issue here is that the one looking on the outside in is one of your highest paid players, and you're the guy that was expected to, you know, be a guy
The
for
Rock.
a little bit
He's the Rock,
longer.
man.
And it hasn't worked out, unfortunately, because is aging a bit quickly right now, and he's starting to get hit a little bit harder. And we've seen declines of starting pitchers once they hit their mid 30s. This is very usual.
Hmm.
A couple situations that kind of come to mind is like I grew up a San Francisco Giants fan in the early 2010s, and
Hmm.
I know that was a decade and a half ago. But Tim Lincecum made the adjustment mid-season to becoming a bullpen arm,
Yeah.
and he helped guide them in 2012. He was a X factor in the bullpen for that
Yeah.
team, being able to hoist the trophy.
Hmm.
if Luis Castillo can get over the ego shot that is going to a bullpen, it could be a massive, massive difference
Yeah.
come postseason time. Now we're in May. Okay, we
Right.
got a solid marathon ahead of us still. We're
Yep.
we're a third of the way through the season, maybe.
Yep.
So there's a lot to be worked out. I mean, Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu, Emerson Hancock, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, like one of these guys is going to go down to injury,
Hmm.
unfortunately, at some point this season.
Yep.
So Castillo's got to be ready to rock when his time is called. But until that time is called, I think it could be good reps for him to potentially plan for being a bullpen arm come postseason time because that bridge guy come postseason time from starter, if a starter gets knocked out in the second inning because it doesn't have his stuff, that bridge guy over to the back end of the bullpen, over to Munoz, over to Bizardo, that is a huge, huge asset come
Yeah.
postseason time. So, number one, good problem to have. Number two, it's just Castillo being able to take a shot to that ego, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Jay, I want to get your exact, want to get your thoughts on this topic as well because it's a hot one, and then I'll share some of mine.
Yeah, I mean, I think Danny nailed it with the good problem to have. If all six are pitching well, we'll take that. It's you can't have too much good starting pitching if they're all locked in. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been weird, right, from Mariners fans' perspective because the two players, Miller and Castillo, don't seem very happy with it. The fan base doesn't seem very happy with it. We've seen it for two games, and honestly, it's kind of worked really well. The only issue was they didn't just go to Munoz in that ninth inning. And we know in our group chat, Sean, it really
Yeah.
was an interesting night that night.
Yeah, it was.
But if they had gone to Munoz there, I think we always were pretty impressed with how Castillo looked. He looked great on Monday night in his 4 innings, and Bryce has looked fantastic so far. I do think I get a little bit of the frustration from Bryce's perspective, from Bryce's point of view.
Hmm.
He's thinking they're like, I'm dealing so far. I was injured last year. I've been a great starter. Why are we doing this? For Luis Castillo's perspective, I'm kind of like, dude, you were struggling as a stretched out starter, now a little bit more condensed role, and you seem to be performing a lot better. You're helping the team win here. I think this might be what's best for you. I don't know long term. I don't know if I can recall like a true piggyback like this where they haven't fully transitioned Castillo to the bullpen. It's literally like they're just two starters combining to try to go 7, 8 innings. I don't know if I've ever really seen anything fully like this.
Yeah.
So far it's worked. I do kind of get worried like, hey, you're kind of a man down in the bullpen because whoever's the piggyback is only in the bullpen that one game. But I
Right.
also think it really saved the bullpen this series because they went the whole way, and it probably helped the bullpen win that series against Chicago because you had everybody ready to go game 3.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Like it's so weird because it seems like the players hate it, but it also seems like it's working. I don't really
Yeah.
know. I like the idea of Castillo kind of being a 1 to 2, 3 inning reliever. I think it's something the Mariners are kind of missing. They have a lot of short stint relievers that are good.
Yeah.
But I think we've seen, I always think of when the Astros made the run, like Chris Davinsky was a guy that would go a couple innings for them.
Hmm.
Danny mentioned Tim Lincecum in the Giants run. I think he was going a couple innings for them in that postseason run. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong on that. And I think those guys are really important to have. So if Castillo can transition to that and be a multiple inning reliever in a playoff run or something, I think that's really valuable. But the way they're doing it, I don't know. Like the results are
Yeah.
good. I don't know about the process, but I mean, it is working so far.
Yeah. So here's where I would kind of give a little bit of sympathy to Castillo is he's always had slow starts. And in fact, this probably isn't even the worst start of his career. If you go back to 2021, he came out the jump in April or in that March and April combined month with I've actually got it here, a 6.29 ERA in those months. And then his ERA jumps up to 8.04 by the end of May. And then June, July, August, September, we see The Rock. And he was The Rock ever since. So I think from his perspective, you saw him throwing the jacket and throwing his glove in the dugout. He's probably thinking, dude, I've done this before. I know how to get out of it. Give me time, and I will literally be the $30 million a year pitcher that you're paying me to be. I'm just about to break out of this. And from his perspective, and I think we should be aware of that. Like this is a tough thing to manage because somebody's got to be the odd man out. You can't go to 6-man rotation because as weird as it is to say, you don't want to give Emerson Hancock less. I can't believe I'm saying that. You don't want to give Emerson Hancock less starts, and you don't want to give Brian Wu less starts. So someone's got to be the odd man out. But I do feel for Castillo because it's probably not fair. And to Danny's point, this is an abundance of riches that most teams would love to have. And right now, Castillo's probably going to have to be in this scenario until somebody gets hurt. Not that you're ever rooting for injuries. I'm certainly not, but that's probably what's going to get him back into the rotation full time. I think the flip side of that argument could be put Castillo in the bullpen because even if somebody gets injured, here comes Cade Anderson. And he's probably better than anybody outside of probably Brian Wu. Like in our system, even if everybody's out, like what he's doing in Double A is unbelievable. So there's even that reality too of dude, even if somebody goes down, who cares? Here comes Cade Anderson. You're not going to miss a beat. So um, I don't know. That's kind of my long-winded reaction to this whole scenario. It's it's a bummer that it's happening, but it's also an amazing thing that it's happening. And it's showing the professionalism of Miller and Castillo for obviously being frustrated and being open about being frustrated, but also doing it. So um, let's jump to another topic here. JP Crawford. He has been abysmal defensively. Actually had a couple of nice plays this series, but has been beyond abysmal defensively this season. And he's been open and willing to jump over to third base to allow Colt Emerson, who is a much better defender, to play shortstop. We haven't seen that change yet, but it appears that it's just a matter of time until that officially happens. Every day. Um, Danny, I'll jump it over to you. Does that show leadership from JP Crawford, or is this just him giving himself more market next year when he hits free agency and is just showcasing, no, I can play third base?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I do find it incredibly ironic that the Seattle Mariners, for years, while there have been shortstops that have been available in free agency, the Mariners front office has backed JP for years. They have said JP is our shortstop. He is our shortstop of the future, the now, and forever, seemingly.
Hmm.
Well, everybody slows down at some point, and JP's been a very above average player for a long time. He's been far from great. To his credit, I think the Seattle Mariners were that close a year ago. Hopefully, he is able to see, look, the more talent, the better. If it's a defensive switch that's going to be the difference between us falling short in the ALCS again and making the World Series, I'm willing to make that switch. So credit to him. I was just kind of looking around at who could possibly be available as a shortstop come this trade deadline. And there's a lot to be sorted out. Like I said, it's only May. So we still don't really know who the contenders and who
Yeah.
the teams on the outside are going to be. Um, could the Giants give up Willie Adames? Maybe. It's a guy that's making a lot of money, but Giants are on track to being sellers at the deadline.
Yeah.
After that, shortstop wise, there's just not a whole lot available. CJ Abrams, talent wise, is probably would be the best available.
Yeah.
Are they going to put their 25-year-old shortstop on the trade market before he hits free agency? He doesn't hit free agency until 2029.
Hmm.
So there's just not as much talent at the shortstop position that could be available, at least as of this juncture. Now that again, things could change between now and the trade deadline, but yeah, it's not exactly an embarrassment of riches at the shortstop position, trade candidate wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that the Mariners would be necessarily interested in trading JP Crawford. It's just a matter of, from my perspective, are they going to DH him or are they going to just have him play third base? I would say second half on. I think that switch is going to happen at some point where Colt Emerson is going to play shortstop. He's just infinitely better than JP Crawford is at shortstop at this point. And it's not just about the plays that you make in terms of getting outs, it's also keeping the ball in the infield, which JP can't do. But one thing I will say that JP Crawford does well, you saw it today, he's very quick with one step. If he doesn't have to range anywhere, he's fine. It's just when he has to get into the hole, he can't do it, and it's costing the Mariners runs. And I think that's why he's smartly saying, "Hey, I don't have a market at shortstop. I think third base is probably where I'd get some money in free agency." Jay, what's your perspective on this whole J.P. Crawford, Colt Emerson, shortstop, third base? How do you think that sorts itself out as time goes on?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. The Mariners roster is so odd in this like scenario because you put JP at third, then you're essentially, Brendan Donovan, I guess, kind of becomes like your early 2000s Mark McLemore and plays a little bit of everywhere, but still plays every day.
Hmm.
Danny made a great point. Like, just, if you're looking for a shortstop upgrade, it's so tough because teams with great shortstops lock them up. So you're not going to be able to grab an amazing shortstop on the market. And the ones that are available are ones with major flaws. And it's kind of like where JP is, right? Like a good
Yeah.
player, just a flawed player. There's
Yep.
nothing wrong with JP Crawford. He'll find a home next year and be a good baseball player. Um, I think eventually we'll see him at third base. They'll try it, and I think that's a better defensive alignment for the Mariners because shortstop's, I think, just a more important defensive position. So Colt Emerson's going to be better than JP there. And at third, as long as JP's like, let's just say, a tier below average, like he's let's say just below average, there,
Yeah.
then you're probably okay with it because Cole Young's been really good at second. I'm not sure how Naylor's graded out. I feel like he's been kind of struggling at first base defensively. I don't know what the
Yeah.
numbers say on it. So you might get a couple of improvements there, and then Donovan comes back and he just sort of, okay, JP's going to get a day off. Donovan will play third. Randy will DH. Donovan will play left. And if someone gets a day off, he's in right. Cole Young needs a day off. He'll go to second base. Donovan could DH a day. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my guess as to what they'll do eventually here. But it's tough because like we don't know, how JP's taking to third base and everything like that either. It's like I said, it's just a really weird roster. There's a lot of DHs on the roster. We
Yeah.
talked about that, Sean, when you were on my show. Like, so it's like I don't know if you can DH JP because then it's like, well, what do you do with Rayleigh, Canzone? If
Hmm.
Rob Refsnyder is finally coming around a little bit here, you still got Patrick Wisdom on the roster. Not that that'll stick, but yeah, I think they will put him at third base at some point. We'll see it. I thought we might see it this series, to be honest. But I think at some point we'll see the experiment. And if it goes okay, then I think they probably roll with that.
Yeah. To kind of come full circle with this thing, do you guys think that I was off my rocker when I was saying I think that Dan Wilson may have been managing for his job this series? Because let's just say we go the whole opposite and we get swept, and we end up we're at that point 5.5 games back of the division. We're well below 500, and the vibes, I can't even imagine how much they'd be cratering because they weren't good. I mean, we lost a series to Kansas City coming into this thing. Do you guys, what do you guys think would have happened if we got swept? Would it still been status quo? Just keep moving forward, keep trucking along. Everything's going to be fine, kumbaya? Or do you think that we would have seen shuffles? Because there were some people that I really respect as Mariners um, insiders, I would say, that were saying, "Hey, this is a pretty important series." Do you think that's just rumblings, or do you think there's some truth to that? I'll start with Danny.
I would say it's a little too early for that. My college coach, I think we talked about this before. My college coach, Jake McKinley, one of the bench coaches for the Mariners. I got to talk with him after the game on Tuesday, and yes, they just got done obliterating the A's for two straight games, so vibes were at an all-time high. But
Uh,
the vibes amongst the clubhouse seem really, really good. I don't think this has been a lack of management. I don't think this has been even a lack of talent, really. It's just
yeah,
been a matter of fact that it's been 60 games and um, you miss a guy here, you miss a guy there, and some things don't always work out across 60 games. But I think this team believes in this roster, believes in its coaching staff across 162 games. This pitching staff is not built for 30 games, it's not built for 60 games. It's built for 162.
yeah,
That's why pitching wins championships. It's because that's why that 2020 season was so weird. We
yeah,
saw a lot of quirky things, and no offense to Kyle Lewis, but Kyle Lewis won Rookie of the Year and was out of the league in 3 years. We saw a
yep,
lot of weird things in 2020. So what we see across baseball, we've seen it with the Dodgers for decades now, is that when you put together a good pitching staff together, it will get you through 162. I have
yeah,
no idea what's going to happen for the first 30, first 60, but as long as you stick with your good pitching staff for 162, you're in a good place.
yeah.
Before I pass the baton to Jay here, just to piggyback, no pun intended,
Here we
on
go.
your defensive stats.
Uh-huh.
Seattle does have a defensive problem. They're last in baseball at a
Hmm.
negative 20 outs above average right now.
Not great.
Defensive rating, according to Fangraphs, they're second to last in front of only the Los Angeles Angels, negative 12.9 defensive rating. So that is an issue defensively for this ball club.
Yes.
That's got to get fixed because this team plays a lot of close games because this pitching staff is so dominant.
Hmm.
If defensively you're giving up a run here, a run there, that could be a difference in some ball games.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we were saying before, you were pretty much below average at every defensive spot. Right field, when you have a Luke Rayleigh out there, it's not great. Center, actually, Julio Rodriguez has been bad defensively this year. I don't know why, but he hasn't been Julio this year, not yet. Starting to see it come around, but that first month and a half, woo, man, it was rough out there. Arozarena, he should be a full-time DH, but we have 7 DHs on our roster, so we can't do that. Naylor, like you said, he hasn't been very good defensively. Cole Young, actually the inverse of all this. He's been prime Jackie Robinson at second base. He's been unreal. But at shortstop and third base have been very bad defensively, especially until Colt Emerson showed up. I think that there's a world, honestly, where um, Victor Robles gets a lot more runway in right field because a run, penny saved is a penny earned, right? A diving catch at the gap, that's just as good as a double, right? So I think Victor Robles was an impact player this week. Obviously, the 3 hits in yesterday's ball game, but you saw what an impact right field, a defender can do, and we haven't seen that at all from our corner outfield. So that was a sight for sore eyes right there. Um, what I do want to talk about is obviously Cal Raleigh is hurt, but up until his IL stint, his numbers are horrible, like pathetic numbers. Um, how concerned should Mariner fans be about that? Because a lot of haters out there, a lot of trolls have been talking about even before the season started. Kyle Raleigh's just Chris Davis. He's just Chris Davis. And I feel like now there's just a lot of fuel behind that argument. And is there any validity to it? I'm going to kick this one over to Jay, and then I'm going to get Danny's thoughts on this one. But are we going to see, the big dumper this year, or is it just going to be a lost season for him, you think?
Yeah, and real quick, I'll double piggyback off what
There we
Danny
go.
said. Just real quick with the
Stack
defense,
is high.
we'll stack the piggyback. I mean, they're 6 and 13 in one-run games, and now obviously, like I think there's a little bit of bad luck in there, but the defense is a huge issue. You're playing close games, and when you're not crisp defensively, you can lose those games. So that's a great call out. With Cal, I think it's fair to say I think Cal's just been kind of hurt all season, really. Maybe was nursing something early that we didn't know about. Listen, and Cal Raleigh will probably never repeat what he did last year. I mean, how many 60 home run seasons have there even been in baseball? I think Sammy Sosa is the only player that's ever had multiple 60 home runs season. I think, Sean, you might have actually dropped that piece of nugget.
Well, he's hit 60 home runs multiple times and never led the league in home runs.
Yes, that's what it was. So, I mean, like, of course, for all the
wrap your head
Yankee
around.
trolls that are like, oh, Cal's a one-hit wonder. Yeah, he's not as good a hitter as Aaron Judge. He's not going to do what he did last year. If you go look at what Cal Raleigh was in 22, 23, and 24, it's still one of the best, most valuable catchers and players in all of baseball. And you haven't had that at all this season. I just can't believe that Cal's just not good anymore. Even if you get, somewhere in between there, and it's still an extremely valuable hitter that was on pace to still hit 30 to 35 home runs. He was starting to come out of it a little bit before the re-injury or the actual injury. He'd had a pretty good road trip, I think, in St. Louis and Minnesota, was starting to get the long ball going, and then got hurt against Kansas City, then tried to play through it. I think they just give him this kind of extended time off, get him right, get him back out there. And I think Cal will be just fine. I'm not too worried about it. Again, I'm not expecting him to do 2025 because that's insane. Very, very few players outside of the Aaron Judges of the world will ever repeat those seasons. But Cal is still an extremely valuable baseball player. And I think he's going to help the Mariners a lot here in the second half. And maybe in some weird way, the injury might help you if you stay in first place because now you got a more rested Cal Raleigh for the second half. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but I'm not worried about Cal.
Yeah. I do wonder how much the WBC impacted Cal's just everything that's happened up until this point. Danny, what's your thoughts on Cal Raleigh just in general and just how the season has gone? Should Mariners fans be panicking about how the season has gone? Obviously he's hurt, but up until then, panic button or are we good?
I put my panic button in a safe, nice and tight
There you
until
go.
probably about beginning of July. I give teams at least 2 to 3 months before I'm hitting the panic button anymore. I thought it was not to get too off topic. I thought it was ridiculous that the Red Sox fired Alex Cora after 20 something games. I thought it was ridiculous that the Phillies fired Rob Thompson after 20 something games. Now the
Yeah.
Phillies are playing better baseball. That should be said. But again, I say this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Cal's numbers. He just really struggled against high velocity early on
Mhm.
this season. Against the fastball this year, 57 at bats. He's struck out 24 times. So he's striking out nearly 40 something percent of the time against high velocity, batting a buck oh 05.
Not
So
great.
it's not great. But I will say that is typical for hitters early on. We've seen it with Julio for God knows how long at this point.
Yeah.
We see guys that struggle against high velocity in March, April, and May, and finally they're able to get their timing down. Hopefully, Cal can get healthy. That'll help things as well. I'm not hitting the panic button, but he's got to start making some adjustments against high velocity.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I wanted to pick your guys' brain on, especially Danny, is Emerson Hancock starting to get people's attention, or is he just a nice story in Seattle and it's just localized to our little fandom here in the Pacific Northwest? Or is Emerson Hancock starting to become a dude league wide where he's starting to get recognized?
The answer is no, but my second part, it's twofold. Firstly, no. Secondly, it's a good thing that he's not becoming a household name yet. And this is why. One of my pet peeves of Major League Baseball is when you call up a 22, 23-year-old kid and
Hmm.
you just stick him in a three hole and say, let's roll.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids are not cut out for it. We've seen like Joe Adell with the Angels. Everybody gave up on him. He's still only
Yeah.
24 years old before he finally started to click a little bit.
Yep.
You've seen it with Jordan Walker in St. Louis. People completely gave up on the kid. He's still 24 years old, 23 years old.
Yeah.
Too often teams stick 21, 22-year-olds into a position that is too much pressure on their shoulders.
Hmm.
And too often fan bases give up on these kids when they fail their first time around, their second time around. Everybody matures differently. Everybody matures at a different rate. And I love the fact that Seattle's putting uh, him down in the nine hole and saying, look, you're going to get good pitches to hit down there. You're going to earn your way up the lineup. Until then, no pressure. Take your swings, get your confidence going. And then, if need be, we can move you up the lineup a little bit. So, the
Hmm.
answer to your question is nobody's paying attention to him yet. But I think it's a lot is because there's no pressure on him right now because there are other guys in this lineup that should be carrying the team. Hopefully, as postseason creeps around, starts moving up the lineup a little bit, and that's when the eyes will start glowing a little bit at this young kid.
Yeah. So this is where things get really confusing because you're talking about Colt Emerson. Did I say Colt Emerson or did I say Emerson Hancock? Because the Emerson Hancock Colt Emerson thing throws me for a loop every single day.
I was
Uh,
referring to Colt Emerson. I may have said Hancock. So just know I'm talking about Colt
there
Emerson.
you go.
Obviously, Hancock is not hitting in the nine hole with him a DH. So
Not
just to be
yet.
clear,
Not
not yet.
yet.
But
What-
Hancock has been a godsend
yeah.
too. That should be noted.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Hancock, real quick?
A dude, I mean, I watched him start on Tuesday. Really funky arm slot, doesn't throw anything straight.
Yeah.
Produces a lot of weak contact. Has a really great ability of throwing inside on right-handed hitters.
Yeah.
And that's a great, great tool, especially for a young arm, is throwing inside on hitters is a fantastic quality for young arms because a lot of guys are too afraid to come inside and hit pitch it or hit guys and put guys on base. He's not afraid of doing that. So
Yeah.
he gets a lot of weak contact because he's missing barrels and he's not afraid to pitch inside on hitters.
Well, actually, what you said about Colt Emerson it was actually perfect for Emerson Hancock. Like it literally couldn't have been better because everything you said about being patient about players, that's so applicable to Emerson Hancock because he was right in that George Kirby Logan Gilbert tier of prospect, but didn't have the results the way that those guys did. And now, I mean, if there was a game tomorrow, you'd take Emerson Hancock over Kirby and Gilbert right now, which is crazy to say. I can't believe I'm saying it in 2026, but I am, and it's real, and I can say it with a straight face. Jay, I want to get your thoughts on. Let's do both of them. I mean, do both of the Emersons.
I
What
kind
have
of opened
you?
that door, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's we were going to talk about it. So, um, Colt Emerson first. What have you seen? What have you liked? Maybe what have you not liked? Just overall thoughts of Colt Emerson and his first little cup of coffee here.
Yeah, there's Colt Emerson Hancock, Colt Emerson, Cole Young. So there's three of them that really
It's a
just
hot
mess
mess.
with
Yeah.
you. And you know what? Now I'm not gonna. You asked about Colt Emerson, right? Just to be now I'm losing
Talk
track
about
of
whichever one you want.
Okay, I'll just go. No, I think Colt Emerson really mature for his age in terms of not personally, I don't know him personally, but in terms of on the baseball field, really solid at bats, really impressed with how he's hit left-handed pitching so far. Really sneaky power. Like you look at him, it doesn't look like the ball is going to take off his bat. And as someone that never really played a lot of baseball, I don't know the term for that, but it's just when he swings, you go, oh, it's not hit hard, but it's like, man, that carried and got out of the ballpark, or that went opposite field double, that one he had against Kansas City. I was like, man, I thought that was a routine pop up. Even his home run
Hmm.
against the White Sox, I thought wasn't hit, that hard, but and it was. You go look at the exit velos; they're over 100 on those, and they are hit hard. So,
Yeah.
really just mature plate appearances, willing to spit on pitches outside the zone. Doesn't feel like he's chasing any bad pitches outside of a couple, which every player in baseball does. Just really mature approach. Defense looks really solid. Fundamentally sound, good range, arm strength looks really good. Kind of an easy arm that, again, kind of the same thing that sort of like almost gives you like a little Adrian Beltre vibe, or it doesn't, just throws it with ease, across the diamond. Just really impressed so far. And to be 20 years old and doing that, we've seen guys come up. Obviously, Danny mentioned a lot of guys that we've seen just have pressure put on them that break out later. There's also been some studs. I remember when Mike Trout came up in 2011, he struggled. He was not that great, and then really took off in 2012. So for Colt Emerson to be 20 years old coming up and being a plus defender, and I think right now rocking like an 840, 850 OPS. I mean, small sample, he goes over the next 9. That's probably down to the 600s. But,
Yeah.
but
Hey, if
still,
he
like
goes
it's
nine
what
for
he's
nine,
done.
it's up in the thousands. So
Exactly. So, exactly. So, but it's his numbers right now. And really, really impressive, and just love his approach. And I think he's going to be a solid stud, everyday player for the Mariners for the next decade here. And they've
yeah.
got him locked up, and you've got a future of, hopefully a healthy Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Colt Emerson, and Cole Young. You're set up the middle there, which is always great in baseball. So just really impressed with Colt Emerson so far.
What about Emerson Hancock? You think that this is for real? Like, hey, this is set it and forget it. He's just part of the rotation now.
Yeah, it's hard to say no. I mean, I'm still kind of like waiting for the shoe to drop, just because,
Hmm.
I've seen enough of him. But even last year, like I know some of the underlying data wasn't great on him, but he still rocked after his really bad outing against Detroit. I think his ERA was in the threes the rest of the year, and he had one start in Chicago where the wind was just blowing out, where you hit a pop fly and it just carried 380 feet. You can't really
Hmm.
blame him for that start. So even last year, like he was a perfectly acceptable number 5 starter. And like Danny said, he's got that, kind of weird arm slot now, and that fastball has just been ridiculous with the movement. And his fastball value is like one of the highest in baseball. It's in like the 95th percentile or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just been ridiculous. And for a guy that sometimes doesn't feel like he knows where it's going, because he'll throw some pitches where I'm just like, well, that would have, killed somebody in the other batter's box. But his walk rate's really good. So he ends up still being able to find the zone. And like Danny said, generate a ton of weak contact to go into a ballpark like Sacramento, where the ball flies against a lineup that's got Nick Kurtz, Shea Langoliers. I know there's some guys struggling. Soderstrom hasn't gotten going yet. Lawrence Butler's really struggling, but it's a pretty decent Rooker struggling too. It's a pretty decent A's lineup top to bottom.
Yeah.
And in that ballpark, I mean, you can give up 6 runs in the blink of an eye. So he's been really impressive, and the shoe just hasn't dropped yet for him. We'll see. I still have my doubts, just because I've been watching the last 3-4 years of them, and it's like my brain's gotta like turn on
Yeah.
to go, no, he's good now.
Yep.
um but
Totally.
but if you just yeah, if you just turned out the last years and watched him this year, it's absolutely a perfectly good, like middle of the rotation, I think, guys, where I'd probably slot him. I'm sure the expected ERA is a little higher than his actual 2.78, but even if it's a 3.5, that's outstanding. That's absolutely
Totally.
outstanding. And he's probably been a borderline all-star this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you're saying, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. His quote unquote blow up starts have been fine. And I think that's the biggest difference between. Like, obviously, he's got a way higher ceiling now with that arm slot, like Danny was talking about. That sweeper is wicked, and that fastball running in on righties is just phenomenal. But I would say the biggest difference that I see between Hancock last year and Hancock this year is Hancock about once every four starts would get obliterated. And right now, yeah, about once every four starts or so, you get a start that's not amazing out of Emerson Hancock, but it still gives you a shot. And I think that that's a real skill. How do you figure out how to manage your way to get through 5 innings and only give up 3 runs when you don't have your A stuff or your B stuff or really your C stuff? Like Emerson Hancock has figured that out, and it's been critical for the Mariners. I don't know where we'd be without him right now. Um, he's been a really critical part of this team so far. So it's been great to see. Um, that's all that I had. That's all the stuff. That's all the topics I had written down. It's kind of funny. I've been saying the whole year since we started since we started the season 4-9. My whole goal was to get through May 500, and it's right there in front of you. And I do think that we're about to take the take off the ramp, so to speak. Um, if you can get through and beat the Diamondbacks here and win that series, I think that'd be a pretty big statement. They are white hot. Uh, Tip to any pitcher out there listening: don't throw to Ketel Marte, because holy crap, what an unbelievable player on a ridiculous hot streak right now. But guys, thanks so much for coming on. Do you guys want to just give a quick little overview on a project you're working on upcoming? Danny, anything that you've got in the works that guys should be aware of?
We did a little bit of a deep dive. First of all, thank you for having me on. This was fun. I always love talking about my Puget Sound moosin. So
There you go.
always one of my favorites.
Yeah.
We actually did a little bit of a deep dive. Funny, we talked about uh, Kyle Lewis because we did a little bit of a deep dive. We had this new segment on the Wake and Rake podcast called "Where the hell did this guy go? What happened to this guy?"
Yeah.
So Kyle Lewis. So a little update on him and his career and what he's doing and coaching a
Okay.
12U baseball team out in Atlanta. So
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
feel free to take a look at Wake and Rake Pod on the social handles and on your favorite audio listening platforms.
Nice. I do gotta pat you on the back because your James Karinchak give you an Academy Award for that thing. The that
Appreciate it.
honestly, I'm not even kidding. Like that was a incredible video and really thought provoking. Like what? Why? Why is he not in the? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And you try and figure out reasons. There's guys in the comments, giving rumblings about, kind of behind the scenes stuff that he could be, character flaw. It's like there's a lot of guys that have had character flaws. You deal with a lot when a guy has a 2 ERA. It makes no sense. Great video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go onto his page, look up the James Karinchak video. It makes no sense. You're gonna leave the end of that thing going, what the heck? What about you, Jay? Other than doing Seattle Mariners post game, you got anything else you're working on?
Not really, just kind of the post games. I don't really, have a lot of like stuff where I do, deep dives into certain players and that stuff. I just, I leave that to people to just know it better than me. So, if you after a Mariners game, you want to kind of get some Mariners therapy or hang out with just someone, grab a brewski and talk ball, come over to my channel on YouTube and get my thoughts on hopefully a Mariners W or Mariners loss that we can
Yep.
wallow in together and move on to the next day. So that's pretty much what it is on my channel right now.
Yep. It's part of my nightly routine to watch the
Appreciate
old
it.
Jays Trident, and sometimes good, sometimes
Exactly.
sometimes maybe you know what, as that guy would say. So, anyways, guys, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having
Thanks
me.
for thanks for taking a listen if you're listening to this, and go M's.